What happens when a millionaire CEO thinks he can humiliate his hired help for a few laughs? This is the story of how one chess game exposed the ugliest truth about power, privilege, and what happens when someone you underestimate decides to play back. By the end of this video, you'll understand why respect can never be bought, only earned. But before we dive in, drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. And if stories like this one resonate with you, hit that subscribe button because we're just getting started. Picture this, a sprawling estate outside Flagstaff, Arizona. December's chill in the air, but inside, the warmth comes from expensive bourbon and even more expensive egos. This is where Richard Thornton, CEO of Thornton Data Solutions, hosts his annual executive retreat. The kind of weekend where power suits meet power plays, and everyone pretends teamwork matters more than their next bonus. Richard didn't just host parties, he orchestrated them. Every detail designed to remind his guests exactly who held the keys to their kingdom. This year's centerpiece? A handcrafted chess set made from Italian marble, positioned like a throne in the center of his grand hall. Among the catering staff moved Elena Martinez, 47 years old, hired last minute through an agency. She worked with the kind of invisible efficiency that rich people expect but never acknowledge. Folding napkins, clearing glasses, moving through rooms like a ghost in a pressed uniform. But Elena carried something none of them knew about, a mind that could see 15 moves ahead on any chessboard. Saturday evening. The executives had loosened their ties, the wives had kicked off their heels, and Richard stood center stage with his signature smirk. The conversation had turned to strategy and leadership when he gestured toward his prized chess set. "Business is chess," he declared, swirling his scotch. "Every move should make your opponent question their next breath." The room nodded on cue. Of course they did. Anyone brave enough to test their skills? Richard's eyes swept the room like a predator scanning prey. Silence. Then his gaze landed on Elena as she quietly arranged fresh flowers on a side table. "You," he called out, loud enough to cut through every conversation. "Do you play chess?" Elena paused, her hands still on the vase. "A little," she replied softly. "Oh, come now," Richard chuckled. "Don't be modest. Let's see what our help can do." Nervous laughter rippled through the room. Phones came out. Someone whispered about this being content gold. Elena looked at the expectant faces, then at Richard's condescending smile. She set down the flowers, wiped her hands on her apron, and walked toward the board. "If you insist," she said, her voice steady as steel. What Richard expected was a quick, embarrassing defeat. A few laughs at someone else's expense. What he got was something entirely different. Elena didn't rush. She studied the board with the kind of focus that made the room's chatter fade into background noise. When she moved her first piece, a simple pawn to e6, there was something in her precision that made people stop scrolling their phones. Richard opened aggressively, all flash and no substance. Elena responded with moves that seemed quiet, almost passive. But to anyone who truly understood chess, something else was happening. She wasn't just playing pieces, she was playing him. By the fourth move, Richard was explaining his strategy to the audience. "This is called the Italian opening," he announced. "Classic textbook play." Elena said nothing. She simply moved her knight, and suddenly the angle of the entire game shifted. "She's not guessing," whispered Sarah Chen, the VP of marketing. "Look at her eyes. She's reading him like a book." "So where'd you learn to play?" Richard asked, trying to sound casual as Elena's bishop cut off his escape route. "College," she replied, sliding her rook into position. "Oh yeah? Which one?" "Stanford. Computer science. Full scholarship." The room went quiet. Richard blinked, looked at the board, then back at her. "And now you're..." He trailed off. "My father got sick," Elena said simply. Dropped out junior year to take care of him. Never went back. She moved her queen. Check. Richard stared at the board like it had personally betrayed him. His confident smile flickered. You don't have to do something forever for it to define you, Elena continued. But you do have to respect what's in front of you. What happened next wasn't just a chess game, it was a masterclass in patience, strategy, and quiet dignity. While Richard tried to recover with flashy moves and nervous jokes, Elena systematically dismantled his position. Each move was surgical. Precise. Unavoidable. Wait, hold on, Richard muttered, seeing the trap too late. His queen was cornered, his rook blocked, his king exposed. Checkmate, Elena said quietly. The silence that followed was deafening. Richard sat frozen, staring at the board. The room held its breath. Elena stood up, straightened her uniform, and began quietly resetting the pieces. That wasn't supposed to happen, Richard finally mumbled. Elena looked at him, really looked at him. I know, she said. That's exactly the problem. She walked away without another word, leaving behind a room full of people who suddenly realized how much they'd been missing. This story isn't really about chess. It's about the assumptions we make about people based on their job titles, their uniforms, their circumstances. It's about how easy it is to mistake someone's situation for their capability. Elena didn't need to prove herself to anyone in that room. But when someone tried to use her as entertainment, she responded with the kind of grace and skill that no amount of money can buy. Power isn't about how loud you can speak or how many people have to listen. Real power is knowing your worth, regardless of who's watching. So here's my question for you. How many Elena Martinezes have you walked past without seeing? How many brilliant minds have you dismissed because they weren't wearing the right suit or sitting in the right chair? The next time you're tempted to judge someone by their job title, remember this story. Remember that respect isn't something you can demand, it's something you earn, one move at a time. If this story made you think differently about the people around you, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories that challenge the way we see the world. And seriously, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. I love connecting with viewers from around the globe. Because at the end of the day, we're all just players in this game called life. The question is, are you playing with respect, or are you about to get checkmated by someone you never saw coming?